Hi, I'm Jordan Allen. You are listening and watching the Rising Stars podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and tune in weekly for a new episode. Welcome to the Rising Stars podcast. I am joined by Ani Umana with the Athlete AI company. Also, does a lot of scouting for high school, college, JUCO, you name it, from Houston, Texas area. So thank you for joining me, Ani. I appreciate it. Let's get right into it.
I'm good with it, man. Appreciate you having me on, Jordan.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. All right. Well, we want everybody to, get the news right to them. So let's get to it. What are you hearing on your end in terms of recruiting? Who's, picking up offers? Who's looking good right now? Just give us a landscape of what's going on your end.
Yeah, I was at Tarkanian Classic in Nevada, Las Vegas, last week. So like I got to see like Taj Ariza, 226 wing. That was, he's really good. Son of Trevor Ariza. He's a top three player in 226. Currently number one in a couple national outlets. Size for 226. You got Tyron Stokes. I got to see him for Notre Dame. He has some impact for like double games and led his Notre Dame team to the championship game. They lost Braden Burries, who's a 225, top 10 player, unsigned. He's at Roosevelt. They won the championship. Braden Burries, fantastic, player. I know it's like I'm hearing Alabama, I'm hearing Arizona, Tennessee. Arizona and Tennessee were at every game, damn near last week. So seeing where his where he'll make a decision, I don't think there's really a favorite. I think he's just trying to see what's going to look like down the road throughout their seasons. And I would definitely say like in a few months you may see where he commits, but I don't. It's kind of shaky on where we're hearing where he's going to go. But like guys that are playing well, I didn't get to go to City of Palms, but hearing Michael Brown has been playing really good. Hearing Louisville on that one, Caleb Wilson here in Kentucky. On that one as well. He's been having a good season. Those two have really been leading their teams. I've been following them pretty good. Muhammad Sia, obviously he just put out his top three. I think it's Oregon, Arkansas, just kind of seeing where that is. Some Arkansas, some Oregon. But he's been a big man. I know he came in like later in the summer or the fall from NBA Africa. I got to see him in Dallas at the Thanksgiving Hoop Fest, and I saw just a disruptor like at the rim as far as just blocking, altering shots, being a play finisher. I saw some skill and some footwork, some touch. I talked to his coach at that CIA Bella Vista, and he had a lot of high praise about that kid's work ethic and motor and how committed he is to the basketball. So guys like him are someone that we didn't really get to know who they were till later on this fall, but deservingly so what the options that he has and the money that he could potentially make. I think he's someone that's going to continue to rise in the rankings. So that's just some of the recruiting news. Nate and Matt here in Duke. I think some of these like those top guys, they can take their time, some on where they want to commit to. They can see who's going to leave, who could teams bring in, they could bring in from the portal. I don't think they'll wait that late, but those players have the opportunity to wait, see how that team looks, see who potentially is leaving, and then kind of make the decision from there. So they've earned that, the ability to do that, and I think we'll see more of these five stars like making the decision next few months.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. One other guy that I wanted to mention and see what you've heard about him as well is Tyler Jackson. I've been hearing that Maryland is in the lead. However, I was thinking about this yesterday, and add on what you think. Alabama could be a fit for him because looking at his other offers and places that would make sense, Alabama to me seems to make sense just based on who's committed and what his role would be there.
Right. And I think that's all going to be dependent upon maybe like what Burries would do. Obviously, I think he could fit right in Alabama. There's big guards like him that have played there had success with NATO. So I absolutely from a fit standpoint, but I do know that they're in place to potentially get Braden Burry, so that could also impact that decision. But I'm here, Maryland's in the lead on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And him being from, Baltimore obviously plays a factor. Having said that, we know nowadays money talks. So it's not, necessarily going to make a difference per se, but it still matters, I think, to a point. I mean, look at Derek Queen, right? If he wasn't from the Maryland area, would he have committed to Maryland, in your opinion?
Probably not. Probably not unless they were just offering the money that makes too much sense. That I mean, money talks, but playing close to home, playing in front of your family, having an opportunity to play in front of your family as much as possible. Those kids want to do that. That's the human factor in the recruitment part. But I would say maybe unless they just offer so much more money. And then the thing is, if he wasn't from Maryland, would Maryland even try to get him? You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
if he was from Florida, like they probably wouldn't even waste their time. They'd probably try to get someone around the area. So yeah, there's so many factors that come with that.
No, I agree for sure. And the other point I wanted to make and add on to Braden Burries is I've been hearing USC too is in the mix. I mean, obviously him being from, the LA area, do you think that there's a possibility USC lands him, or what are you hearing on that front?
Yeah, really with him when you on his it's really tight. It's a tight knit, like as far as just where he's potentially going. Honestly, with him, I wouldn't be surprised where he decides to go. But yeah, they're kind of keeping that tight. Like I'm hearing things here and like when I start hearing a whole bunch of like stuff, this or that or this or that, then I'm like, okay. When he gets closer down to like when he wants to really commit or has set a time, I think then we'll know exactly where he's gonna go. But when I'm kind of hearing multiple schools and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, let me let time kind of go by, then we'll figure out what the real is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm all for that as well. And just, waiting until the day of. I mean, this, Ani, from being in the recruiting world. Things can change on a dime. Like I remember when I was watching Nick Amenya commit,
Mhm.
everyone told me UCLA, UCLA, Duke. I mean, you can't predict these things. It's very unpredictable. So in my opinion, you got to literally wait until the day. And even with Debanza, like I don't know what you were told, but I was getting texts right before he was about to commit saying it was Alabama in the lead, and then it was UNC, and vice versa. And then BYU came in and said, you know what? We're gonna blow these guys out of the water and give you $9 million.
Right, and I heard he actually signed his letter of intent like a few weeks before he committed. And that's the thing, like those guys, they know where they want to go, and they probably have like weeks before. Like what AJ did with that situation isn't abnormal. Like when they commit, they've already probably signed national letter of intent. You know what I mean? It's just the whole build up, the name. It's a marketability deal. So listen, I ain't mad at them, but yeah, like I was here in Alabama like the day before AJ committed, but I also heard he signed like a few weeks ago, prior to his. But that's just kind of part of the game. But like I said, like Nicholas Kamenian was definitely like dude did his thing last minute, and so there's stuff like that happens, and I think that's why I kind of just when they want to get time, when they want to get towards the date of where they want to commit, that's when it's like, okay, yeah, especially for the ones that like it's so all over the place. Like I'm not going to try to figure that out.
No, I know exactly what you mean. And going back to Muhammad Silla, sorry, is it pronounced Sia or Silla?
It's probably I think it's Scylla.
Silla. So
Mhm.
going back to Muhammad Silla, so I was told that Arkansas doesn't want to pay him $1 million, which is what he's seeking. So that leads me to believe that he's going to Oregon as of now. I mean, what are you hearing on that
I'm
front?
here in Oregon. I am here in Oregon. I'm here in Oregon. in Arkansas, but I'm definitely hearing Oregon on that one. And I think that'll be a really good get for Oregon. They're having a fantastic season. And I think he fits in. I think he's someone that can play right away. If I'm Oregon, I could really see where he fits in, where they've had guys in the past, like the big fella from that played at Sunrise. Man, I forgot his name. Um, they had him, and I think Muhammad can kind of fit right in. They've had bigs like him in the past that have had a lot of success, and so I think he fits right in.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we'll see what happens. I assume based on him cutting down his list to three, he will commit sometime in January, early February. Is that what you're hearing, or have you heard anything at all
Yeah,
about
I'm
that?
hearing like a January commitment date, potentially February. I think I'm hearing January for sure, but those could be interesting. But I'm hearing January, but and I think it could make he's taking what his visit to Arkansas today.
Yeah.
So so yeah, I those situations when they want to get to that three, usually within 30 days they make a commitment.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And going back to, what you were saying about like guys, last minute or committing, weeks in advance. I mean, for all we know, Nate Met may have already signed his letter of an intent with Duke, right? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's possible. He probably already has committed, signed something. It may already be done. Like we don't know. Like I'm not saying it is, but like that's something that's been normal that I've realized throughout the years that you see stuff like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. But speaking of NIL, as you know, yesterday Jim Larrañaga just retired. I mean, he just called it a day. And I wanted to get your thoughts on why he did this and why you think it wasn't a good idea and selfish.
Yeah, I understand with how NIL is, and the players, and it's so much more business, and kind of more of a pro type of atmosphere in the college level, and that's not everyone's gonna be a fan of that. So I understand his reasoning, and I understand it's frustrating, and the players because of the changes and because of the implementation of NIL, players have how you treat players, how you deal with them, how you coach them probably changed. Absolutely, it has changed, and there's different levels of pressure that you are dealing with because if you pay someone X amount of money and they're underperforming, and stuff like that, it can be a lot. But I've always like been the one to say if I commit to something, I'm gonna finish through. So I no matter how bad it was, no matter how annoying it is, no matter how much you don't like the change, you're in midseason. At least let's finish through. Like you only have a few more months. Uh, just finish through. I think when it happens to a player and they do that, we criticize the player, no matter what the reasoning is, and they could have a solid reason, but it's just like man, finish through the season. If we're going to hold an 18, 19, 20, 21 year old, 22, whatever, in those standards, I don't see why someone in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 40s should be exempt. If we're, at that, like, what are we teaching them? Like, I understand where Coach Larrañaga is coming from. I mean, I'm not a power four, power five head coach, so I don't know what his day to day is, but I do know one thing about like if you're going to commit to something, finish through. If you say I'm a coach this season, then finish through. Unless obviously there's exceptions like emergencies, family emergencies, personal health. Like yeah, like you need to take that time off. If he's dealing with that, then yeah, you need to you need to do what you have to do. But is it because the landscape changed and this and it's annoying and you can't stand it? I mean, you could have done that. You could have done this for another 60, 65 days. I mean, that wasn't that wouldn't have hurt him too much. But and it's just I'm like this with players coaches, anybody, you say, hey, I'm going to coach this season, I'm going to play through this season, then I'm going to play. Then play. If you're going to do it, just
Yeah.
commit to it. Just don't last minute, hey, I'm done, I'm retired, or hey, I quit, I resign. Um, just go through it. Just finish it out. I think finishing out says a lot. Like, I'm not questioning Larrañaga's character, but I guess I look at it, if it's a young person doing it, it's a problem. So I just want to say, like, if we're gonna hold a younger guy to that standard, hold the older guy to that same standard. And like, and that was like, and that was me. I know I've been in situations that I've really hated my job, and I couldn't stand it. Like, I've coached for a while, and I just got done. I finished coaching. Like, I retired from that, and I'm telling you, like, I was like, on the sense, I'm not comparing jobs, but it's just kids that I coached 7 years ago aren't the same now. Parents aren't the same. In my podcast with
Yeah.
Charles Campbell with Hoop DFW, like, we talked about like just the delusion and stuff like that. But there was a lot of times last year I just was like, man, like, I'm ready to get done with this. I'm tired of this. But I was just like, but I committed to these kids. I committed to this organization. Like, I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to leave mid season just because, I'm tired of it. I just wouldn't want to do them right. We talked about, like, in programs, it's bigger than you. We tell the kids bigger than you. That's why you got to sacrifice. That's why you got to do this and do that. And it's bigger than them, but it's also bigger than you as a coach, as anybody on staff, assistant, manager,
Yeah.
video coordinator, whatever. It's bigger than you. So you just do whatever you can to win, regardless if you're losing, regardless if you're not having a great season, whatever. You just get back up and you do it. I get it. Larrañaga's done it for a long time. He's won a lot. He's a very successful coach. He's done his thing. Like, he's done his thing. So this one thing doesn't like, this isn't who he is as a person. I just wish he finished through. Like, me personally, I just wish he would finish through. Like, that's all I because I just don't want people to feel like that's just an okay thing to do.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. But, my whole thing is Jim Larrañaga knew about NIL. He understood the landscape. He knew what was going on. Like, what made him change his mind, like, from November until now? I mean, nothing's changed. Miami team was the same. So my whole thing is you knew everything going on, but now you're selfishly quitting on your team and retiring. Well, first of all, you've got January, February, March coming up. You're not going to make the tournament. Miami's really bad this year. Finish through. I mean, it's 3 more months, and this is a job that you were supposed to enjoy. This isn't a job that people would say, oh, I don't want to do that. I mean, people want to coach. People want to be involved in basketball. So my whole thing is finish through. I mean, you knew everything that was happening. Nothing's changed. I just think it's selfish, and I'm not disregarding his character by any means, but I think this particular decision was quite selfish on his part.
Yeah, and I think honestly, he probably been done with it. You know, um, most times when I've seen guys that like, hey, I'm done with it, it's probably something he's been thinking of probably in the off season, or probably maybe even in the spring. I think when you start getting those strong like feelings about that, especially him, like, he has nothing to prove. Like, he has nothing to prove. So you could have done that before the season. I don't think this was just all of a sudden I feel this way. He's probably been feeling this way. But I think what they went to the Final Four 2 years ago. Um, it's just one of those things. If you were tired of it that much, you could have just ended it earlier. So now they are where they're at. They got to adjust. They got to transition through. But yeah, like, he probably been feeling this way. It's just you act on it in December.
That's right. That's right. And NIL is not going anywhere. It's
Right.
been intact. It's been here. So, that's my whole thing. But, regardless, going more into NIL, are there any players you've heard of recently that are being offered a lot that are, in the recruitment process or that are currently in college and making some good money.
Yeah, I mean, really, I've been more so just kind of hearing from these 5-star guys. I mean, you're looking at like 7-figure type situations. Hearing that, just with Koa and Burries. I know, like I was hearing what Kingston Flames getting offered. With that Tech and U of H battle and Caleb Wilson, like those are 7-figure type situations. So, more hearing that, like just especially with the ones that are signed, I think they're just trying to figure out, okay, like, hey, we have this number. How do we kind of make it make sense and kind of finalizing that? And, most of these guys, if not all of them, have agents, right? So they're just trying to figure out, like, how the numbers, just kind of finalizing the numbers and if it makes sense. That's why I think for most of these guys, like, I'll be real, they know where they want to go. They know
Yeah.
where they want to go. It's just like, okay, we just trying to make sure the numbers are making sense and this and that and these deals that we could potentially get and all that. So I think it's just more so like making sure the numbers and the agreement and everything just makes sense. That's kind of what I've really been hearing with all those guys like Michael, Cohen, Pete, all of them. Those are seven figure type situations. It just I think they're just trying to figure out. Obviously, they're still. I know they'll probably say the basketball piece. I think they watched enough of these teams. They know where it makes sense. I just
Yeah.
think they're just trying to see where it can financially make sense. And that there's nothing wrong with that. If that's the case. Like I don't have a problem with that. Like I think that's fair as a business. That's the part of it. It's a business. It's the business part of it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And one of the things that I was told recently, and you being a Texas guy, that Jeremy Roach is getting $1 million from Baylor. I don't know what you've heard about that.
Yeah, I heard he was getting $1 million. Heard it was a little bit over $1 million. Yeah, so him and BJ Edgecombe got a pretty penny on that.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Baylor doesn't have massive NIL, do they?
They have really figured it out over the years. Like, Baylor gets creative with how they get stuff done. That's what I was gonna say. They are creative. I shout out to that staff. Shout out to coach. I mean, they figure out how to get it done. They figure out how to get it done. They get real creative. So, yeah, they just they can think outside the box, which is why I do respect about them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just kind of surprised based on, what I know about their NIL situation. Obviously, they're not the Dukes, the North Carolinas, you know what I mean? I mean, you wouldn't figure
Right,
that they would
right.
have that type of NIL.
Yeah, they got it's increased over the years, and but they've done a good job, like who they target, who they connected with, like to kind of make sure things, that the players are properly, like paid. So they done a good job. Like they done a good job in the recruiting and just knowing, like, and they're big on relationships and just getting that done.
Yeah, yeah, which to me, is very important. Speaking of NIL, like I get it. You want to make your money, but why not go to a situation that makes sense for you? That's the right fit rather than just going somewhere for the money, because we all know what ends up happening. They end up leaving at the end of the season and transferring to another program. And it drives me nuts. It's also, a pet peeve of mine when guys think, oh, yeah, I'm going to go high major, make my money and do this. But really, you should have gone to a mid major school, increased your stock, played well, got major minutes, and then transferred to a high major.
Right. Yeah. Like, so I'm with you on that because I think at the end of the day, players are the happiest when they're playing, you know? So, and you're playing in a system that makes sense for you. Obviously, if there's like a 500K difference, it's hard to turn down 500,000, right?
By all
If,
means.
yeah, like if it's something crazy like that. I do believe like if you're making a lot of money, if it's in my opinion, if it's like okay, it's between 800,000 or $1 million, but I know this place was giving me 800, I'm got the ball in my hands. The coach has a lot of trust in me. He gave me the green light more. I can play through mistakes, yada yada yada. And this way, so I'm getting a million. I may be coming off the bench, situation, or if you get a million, not coming off the bench. I'm sorry, but like maybe I don't have as much of the green light. Maybe he's using me more of a spotter situations. I can really do stuff more on the ball, and I'm not going to be able to show that and utilize that in my game and his system. Then you got to really look at that. Like if it's the difference between you being a pro and prolong your basketball career, and 200,000 just seems little at that point. And I even think for the ones that are like these guys that are like borderline high major guys, but could really go to a mid plus program situation. I think it's like, man, just go where you can play. I think just fit is just so big. Like it can't all be about the money. I think when it's just such a financial decision, then you're, especially at that age and that level, you can potentially really just hurt your playing career long term because your numbers aren't going to be looking as good, or the way you're being played and utilized, and like the way it isn't, really conducive to like utilizing your strengths. I think you got to choose fit. You got to choose fit. Now, if the money is just so substantially like larger somewhere than the other, you probably, it's hard to pass that down, right? But I do think there needs to be more betting on yourself. I think players should bet on themselves more. I think parents should allow their kids to bet on themselves and do your research and show, okay, this is going to make sense. Straight money plays, and we don't really know how they're going to play me. They say it, but they haven't really came down to see me like that. They just see the number by my name or the star by my name, and they're just giving me money. I always kind of get weary about that stuff like that. I think those situations 9 times out of 10 don't work. Obviously, there's some that do, but like again, just go to fit. It can't. It's about the money, but it shouldn't be 100% all about the money. Because if it's that, and then you're not getting played the right way, then you're going to be mad, and then you really kill your value. You lower your value, and now there's even more years to really try to like pick yourself back up to get where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I've been adamant about this for many years. And I try to, talk to high school players that I'm in touch with and say, hey, like if you're not going to be a high major guy right now and getting a decent amount of minutes, just go mid major, increase your stock, transfer, and you're going to make your money. I always tell people, don't worry about the money right now. Worry about developing your game, getting better. Because at the end of the day, if your end goal is to play professional, wherever that may be, well, the money's not going to matter. The money's not going to, it's not going to matter. Your game is what matters. And I'm with you on that. Too many kids, though, they're too caught up in the money. And I'm not sure that it's going to improve because, as you know, NIL is increasingly getting more and more and more prevalent.
Right, right. Like, make sure you know your value for sure from a financial standpoint, but just also understand, like you said, going high major, you may need to go mid major. Go to the right mid major. Like all I really just tell people, just do your research. Like really see, okay, I'm gonna play for this coach. This is the way I play. He has coached guys like me and they have portaled up or they play professionally or this, that, and the third. So you can see where you are in that person's system. When you can't see that and it's a straight money play, I just think that's just dangerous. I think that's really really dangerous when they don't have guys like you.
Yep.
They have
No,
not
I,
listened
I
to
agree.
guys like you.
I agree. I agree. But you know what? We're gonna, we'll see what happens with this whole,
Right.
decision making, all that. But Ani, I wanted to ask you: are there any under the radar players in college and high school that we should be watching?
One player that I really like watching, TCU has kind of had an up and down season on this more some hometown homer type stuff, but like freshman David Punch, I think is gonna be really good. I think freshman David Punch is gonna be really, really good. I think he's someone just to watch throughout his collegiate career. I think he's a little under the radar. I think he's under the radar, but I think his numbers aren't flashy or anything crazy, but I think he's going to be really, really good. I think he'll have a chance to play professional basketball. I'm very high on him.
All right. Well, any high school guys that we should have our eyes on?
Oh, Tyron Jones, UNLV commit. I got out of
Yep.
Utah, Lane Christian. Boy, I love watching him. I've loved watching him, especially at Tark. Tyron Jones, about 6'8", 6'9", forward, like a three, athletic, long arms, crazy second leap, energetic, can defend most of the spots. Man, just very lethal in transition. I think once his skill continues to build up in his jumper with his athleticism and game, man, he's gonna be really, really good. Like he's gonna be really good. So, and then also I really liked watching Lino Mark from Notre Dame. Going to get some West Coast love because I was in Tark for like 4 days. Lino, I think he's a top 100 level player in the country, and he's committed to Rutgers. So I think he's someone that I think will have a really good collegiate career as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one guy I want to mention, I'm sure you've heard of him, Jakari White at North Dakota State. He has been phenomenal, consistent. I actually think he has NBA potential. Not saying he's going to get drafted, but I think eventually we may see him in the league.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. He's had a really, really good season. I think at some point, he'll figure out his way in the league. He has a chance to.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And then for a high school guy, please correct me if I'm not pronouncing this correctly, but Frederick Leo Curtis.
Hmm.
Have you heard of him?
Yeah, yeah,
So he's a guy that's really, really coming, on strong. And guys, you got to watch him. He's phenomenal. He's like 6'11", maybe 7 feet, goes to Cats, Cambridge Arts Technology, and Science Academy. He's very good. You definitely need to watch him. So those are my two names. Ani, you gave a couple of names there, so appreciate that. Everybody, thank you for watching the Rising Stars podcast. I appreciate it. For Ani, for my producer John, thank you. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and make sure to listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Thanks again. Be well and enjoy the night of hoops.